Welcome back, viewers. I'm Antara and you're watching Front Page by AM Network. It is a packed pipeline, but before we get to the top stories, here's something you don't want to miss. Cypher 2026 is back and it's bigger and better than ever before. Join us this October at KTPO Bengaluru for the 10th edition of India's largest AI summit. If you are serious about AI, this is where you need to be. Also remember, early bird passes are expiring soon, so go grab yours. With that, let's get started with the headlines. India and New Zealand elevated ties to a strategic partnership targeting rupees 35,000 crore in a bilateral trade by 2030, signing 10 agreements including a Navy logistics pact as Modi concluded his historic Indo-Pacific tour in Auckland. HDFC Bank reduced its total headcount by 3,343 employees in FY26, leveraging its new in-house GenAI platform Neev to eliminate non-supervisory back-office roles while expanding its core managerial layers. Anthropic has quietly rolled out native Indian Rupee pricing across its entire Claude AI portfolio, eliminating foreign exchange fees and integrating GST to aggressively capture its second-largest global user base. LTM posted Q1 FY27 net profit up 17% to rupees 1,468 crore and revenue up 18% to rupees 11,608 crore, driven by its AI-centric strategy, now generating $150 million in quarterly AI revenue, despite a financial services slowdown. DRDO officially revived the Kaveri fighter jet engine program after an 18-year hiatus, launching the Kaveri 2.0 initiative to build an 85 kilonewtons indigenous power plant and diminish reliance on delayed American imports. Oracle India VP of Cloud Engineering Sanjeev Chauhan will join Front Page today to discuss how enterprises can operationalize generative AI at scale and what it takes to transform India into a global builder ecosystem. 2 weeks ago, we told you that Prime Minister Modi's Indo-Pacific tour began in Jakarta, then Melbourne, today the final stop, Auckland. The first Indian Prime Minister to visit New Zealand in nearly 40 years. And this stop delivered the tour's clearest economic number yet. India and New Zealand just elevated their relationship to a full strategic partnership, and they set a hard target: double bilateral trade in goods and services. To New Zealand, 7 billion, roughly rupees 35,000 crore by 2030. Now let that sink in. It's not a vague aspiration after all. A number with a deadline signed by both the Prime Ministers. And this wasn't a symbolic photo op. The Auckland talks produced 18 concrete outcomes, including 10 signed agreements. The centerpiece, a roadmap to 2030. A shared 4-year framework to guide the entire partnership forward. Modi called it exactly that, a shared framework to guide joint action and deepen ties. Now here's what's actually powering that rupees 35,000 crore target. Both leaders committed to the early implementation of the India-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement, signed earlier this year. Now the joint statement was specific. The FTA will remove trade barriers, deepen economic cooperation, and unlock greater New Zealand investment into India. Speaking to business leaders in Auckland, PM Modi pitched directly: infrastructure, clean energy, the digital economy, logistics, emerging technologies. His invitation was quite simple, really. India's growing middle class and skilled workforce are an opportunity. Come invest in it. Trade wasn't the only pillar. India and New Zealand signed a reciprocal logistics support arrangement between the Indian Navy and the New Zealand Defence Force. They also agreed to establish an annual maritime security dialogue. Now, to strengthen cooperation, coordination, and information sharing, Modi framed the logic himself. He said, and I quote, "As two maritime nations, our close cooperation lends new strength to the Indo-Pacific." Now, both sides also reaffirmed commitment to freedom of navigation under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. A quiet but pointed message given rising tensions across the wider region. And the two leaders did not stop at bilateral issues. On West Asia, they called for restraint and de-escalation, demanding full restoration of freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. On terrorism, they went even further, explicitly condemning the Pahalgam terror attack and the Red Fort incident, calling for a zero-tolerance approach and disruption of terror financing networks. They also backed UN Security Council reform and raised concerns over the war in Ukraine, a trade summit that doubled as a full geopolitical alignment. Now let's zoom out a little bit. Jakarta gave Modi's tour 20 agreements, including BrahMos and AI cooperation. Melbourne delivered uranium supply and the Pact's tech partnership. And Auckland closes it with a hard trade target and a defense logistics pact. 3 stops, 3 strategic partnerships, each deeper than the last. One consistent Indo-Pacific architecture built one summit at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a front page take on this. This is PM Modi's 6-day tour landing in its final, most concrete number. Rupees 35,000 crore isn't a slogan. It's a shared target the two governments will now be measured against. The question here is, can India and New Zealand actually double their trade by 2030, or does the FTA still need years to translate into real commerce? Let us know what you think in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by AIM Network. Like, share and subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. The retail banking workforce is shrinking, and it isn't because of an economic slowdown. It's because the algorithms have officially learned how to handle the paperwork. If stories like these keep you informed on the technology shaping tomorrow, don't like, share, and subscribe. Now with that, let's get straight to the story. India's largest private sector lender, HDFC Bank, just dropped its integrated annual report for the financial year ended March 31st, 2026. And the numbers reveal a massive operational shockwave. The banking giant has officially trimmed its workforce by 3,343 employees in a single fiscal year. Now, the bank's total headcount dropped from 2,14,521 down to 2,11,178. But let's not mistake this for a standard corporate layoff, because it isn't. This is a highly calculated, aggressive, structural reorganization. HDFC Bank is systematically using artificial intelligence to hollow out its routine back-office operational layers while simultaneously beefing up its upper management teams. The core objective of this workforce adjustment is, of course, the rapid eradication of routine clerical overhead. When you look past the top-line numbers, the true scale of the automation clear-out becomes clear. The headcount for non-supervisory roles, which includes workmen, clerical staff, and subordinate personnel, plunged by a staggering 8,153 employees. It dropped to 1,62,797. These are the exact back-end entry, verification, and support functions that software can absorb instantly. However, let us also look at where the bank is expanding. Now, HDFC Bank aggressively added bodies to its supervisory tiers. Junior management shot up by 3,543 roles to touch 37,708. Middle management expanded by 1,252 positions to reach 10,411. Senior management tickled upward to 262 elite executives. Managing Director and CEO Sashidhar Jagdishan made the strategy explicitly clear. The bank is transforming into a technology-led and customer-centric institution. They are deliberately redeploying human talent away from back-end processing, where technology can drive structural efficiencies, and pushing them into high-value front-end customer-facing role. And the technological battering driving this structural evolution is, of course, an inside job. HDFC Bank has officially unveiled Neev. Neev is the bank's in-house enterprise generative AI full-stack platform. Now, instead of letting individual businesses and departments build fragmented, uncoordinated AI pilots, Neev standardizes AI development across the entire corporation. It provides model access, integrated workflow orchestration, and strict administrative guardrails under one single umbrella. This allows ordinary business teams to deploy automated solutions while ensuring the entire capability remains auditable, heavily monitored, and fully aligned with strict regulatory oversight. The rollout has been completely transformational for how the bank is engineered. Alongside Neev, HDFC Bank has officially finalized its full net banking architecture upgrade and deployed an entirely re-engineered in-house mobile banking platform featuring heightened security and superior usability. Now, across specialized business verticals, the digital footprint is scaling at a massive rate. In corporate banking, enhanced platforms like CBX and TradeFlow are embedding directly into corporate workflows, while their digital wealth platform, Smart Wealth, is driving unprecedented retail client participation. Top executives at Wall Street and international institutions, including JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and Standard Chartered, have repeatedly issued public warnings that generative AI will structurally compress legacy headcount requirements. Now, HDFC Bank's annual report explicitly notes that they embrace technology not to completely replace the human experience, but to elevate it from day one. But the market truth is inescapable. Banks globally are automating the routine to survive, and the data proves that it is working. Now, to prepare its remaining staff for this new era, HDFC Bank's GenAI Academy delivered over 1.36 crore learning hours this fiscal year, upskilling over 50,000 employees in AI and thousands more in tools like Microsoft Copilot. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a front page take on this. HDFC Bank is setting the definitive blueprint for the future of Indian banking operations. Now, by using an in-house full-stack AI platform like Neev to automate back-end clerical labor out of existence, they are essentially protecting operating margins and forcing their human workforce to become highly productive sales and advisory assets. The question here I would like for you to answer is, can automated platforms like Neev maintain bulletproof regulatory compliance and prevent banking fraud without human eyes on the back end? Or will this aggressive clerical clear-out expose the lender to unseen operational risks? Let us know what you think in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by AI Network. Like, share, and subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AI. If you are an Anthropic loyalist here in India, your monthly subscription is about to get a whole lot smoother. For the longest time, unlocking the true potential of Anthropic's frontier models meant paying a hidden premium. You had to shell out expensive foreign exchange charges, wrestle with international credit card processing, and tack on steep domestic taxes on top of standard US dollar prices. Now, but behind the scenes, the structural friction has been completely erased. Now, if stories like these help you make sense of the changing tech world, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. With that, let's proceed further. Now, Anthropic has rolled out dedicated India-specific rupee pricing across its entire line of Claude subscriptions. And internal industry reports confirm that India has officially exploded to become the second largest market for Claude globally, trailing only the United States. Now, Anthropic is locked in as intense, fast-moving land grab against OpenAI, and they are moving aggressively to make purchasing frictionless for millions of local developers and enterprises. Now, under the new pricing structure, the Claude Pro plan is set at 2,000 rupees a month on an annual subscription, or rupees 2,399 on a standard month-to-month billing cycle. Now, previously, users were charged a flat $20, which omitted volatile currency conversions, bank fees, and local taxes. Crucially, all new Indian Rupee plans are completely inclusive of GST. Now, by subscribing to Pro, users are immediately upgraded from the basic free tier, which grants limited access to Sonnet 5, Sonnet 4.6, and Haiku 4.5. The Pro tier unlocks Anthropic's heavy-duty model lineup, including the reasoning engine Opus and the advanced Fable 5 architecture. Now, along with a massive 5 times higher usage limit than free accounts, Pro subscribers unlock deep analytical workflows through advanced research mode, unlimited project workspaces, custom memory configuration, native web search, voice mode, and extensive tool access, including Claude Code and Claude Design. It also enables native integrations directly inside Excel, PowerPoint, and Microsoft 365. But for extreme power users and enterprise developers, Pro limits are easily exhausted. That is where massive Claude Max tier comes in, which has received its own aggressive rupee calibration. Now, Claude Max doesn't switch you to a secret exclusive model family. Instead, it takes the elite core features set of Pro, including Claude Co-work and Claude Code. It hands you a colossal usage bucket to run non-stop automated tasks. The Max 5X variant lands at 11,999 rupees a month. The heavy-duty Max 20X variant climbs to rupees 23,999 a month. Now, under the legacy dollar structure, these plans commanded $100 and $200 respectively. By paying for Max, professional developers could apparently secure massive advantages for long-running agentic workloads like first priority access during high-traffic infrastructure crunches, significantly higher session caps inside the Claude Code terminal, and immediate access to experimental models before they trickle down to ordinary tiers. And Anthropic did not really forget the corporate B2B sector, rolling out dedicated enterprise structures under the Claude Team plan. Now, for organizations looking to deploy localized intelligence at scale, a team standard seat is priced at rupees 2,399 a month, or an annual commitment, or rupees 299 rupees on monthly billing. Now, for high priority executive deployment, a team premium seat scales to 11,999 rupees a month annually, matching corporate options that previously cost up to $150. The corporate architecture delivers a massive 200,000 token context window, allow usage credits to be directly consumed at cheap API rates, and bundles in both Claude Code and Claude Cowork automation tools. Now, to win over conservative enterprise security officers, the team tier includes robust administrative infrastructure like centralized corporate billing, single sign-on, domain capture, and ironclad data privacy governance. Of course, most importantly, Anthropic guarantees that it will never use any content or enterprise prompts generated within Claude Team accounts to train its public foundation models. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a front page take on it. Anthropic's localized pricing is a brilliant operational play. There is no doubt about that. By converting its ecosystem to native Indian rupees and absorbing the local GST burden directly into the listed price, they are essentially positioning Claude as the most friction-free enterprise chatbot option in the subcontinent. Now, here's the question that I would like to ask you guys. Will localized rupee pricing allow Anthropic to completely dominate the Indian developer market? Or will OpenAI respond with an even more aggressive localized pricing model for ChatGPT? Let us know what you think in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by AM Network. Like, share, and subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AI. Last week, TCS reported, then Cognizant. Today, another Indian IT giant opened its books. And this time, the AI story isn't just a talking point. It's showing up directly in the profit column. LTIMindtree, now branded LTM, just reported Q1 FY27 results. Net profit, rupees 1,468 crore, up 17% year-on-year. Revenue, rupees 11,608 crore, up 18%. In dollar terms, revenue crossed $1.22 billion, up 6.1%. Now, while TCS grew profit by single digits this quarter, LTM just posted double-digit growth on both fronts. CEO Venu Lambu didn't bury the ledge. Our Q1 FY27 performance reflects the progress we have made in executing our AI-centric strategy. Our AI pivot is now producing tangible proof points for clients. This is what he said. And here, of course, is the number behind that claim. LTM's AI revenue across creative, business, and industrial is now running at roughly $150 million on a quarterly basis. Not a pilot, not a slide in an investor deck. An actual measurable revenue line. Now let's break down who's actually buying. Three verticals grew strongly: consumer up 18.2%, technology up 10%, production up 5.3%. But one vertical did not follow the trend. Financial services actually declined 2.5% on a constant currency basis. The same sector TCS flagged as one of its soft spots too. Now, across Indian IT this quarter, BFSI is turning into the industry's shared weak link. And profitability wasn't just riding on revenue growth. EBIT margin improved 120 basis points to 15.5%. That's real operating discipline and not just top-line noise. Now, the framing was such. With a strong order book and healthy pipeline across our industry segments, we are confident that our growth momentum will continue to build through the year. Now, here's where LTM's story splits from TCS's. TCS added over 9,200 people this quarter. LTM's head count on the other side actually dipped slightly, down 64 to 87,886. Attrition held flat at 13.3%. The read here, even as AI revenue climbs, IT firms aren't racing to hire at the old pace. Growth is increasingly coming from productivity and not headcount. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the front page take on the story. This is what AI-led growth looks like when it finally starts to show up in numbers. It's not a promise about the future, a 17% profit jump right now. The question is, can LTM keep this AI-led momentum going even as its financial service vertical keeps sliding backward? Let us know what you think in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by AIM Network. Like, share, and subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. There is an elite club in global defense that money alone cannot buy you into. It is a club of nations that can design, cast, and build their own military fighter jet engines. For nearly 2 decades, India has sat just outside those gates, relying on foreign suppliers to power its flagship combat aircraft. But the geopolitical vulnerabilities of that dependency have just forced an absolute historic reversal. If stories like these fuel your curiosity about geopolitical advancements, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. With that, let's get straight to it. The Defense Research and Development Organization has officially revived its indigenous fighter jet engine program, launching a next-generation offensive known informally as Kaveri 2.0. Triggered by severe supply chain delays from American manufacturers and, of course, massive price hikes for foreign power plants, India's gas turbine research establishment is now stepping back into the ring. They are weaponizing nearly 20 years of behind-the-scenes engineering breakthroughs to achieve absolute strategic autonomy in the skies. The core objective of Kaveri 2.0 is overcoming the complex, multi-layered technological hurdles that crushed the original project. Now, to set context here, launched in 1980s, the initial Kaveri engine was supposed to power the homegrown light combat aircraft Tejas. But despite a massive investment of over 2,000 crore rupees, the program hit a wall. It struggled with insufficient thrust levels, generating only 72 kilonewtons instead of the required 83 to 85 kilonewtons, excessive structural weight, extreme high temperature, metallurgy challenges, and catastrophic turbine blade failures at high altitudes. Then in 2008, the government officially delinked it, shifting the Tejas to imported General Electric F404 engines. But the research never truly died. Behind the closed doors, gas turbine research establishment pivoted, successfully developing the Kaveri derivative engine. It is a simplified, dry variant without an afterburner tailored explicitly to power the DRDO Ghatak stealth unmanned combat aerial vehicle. By successfully mastering digital controls and proving afterburner integration on the test bench, engineers have systematically checked off the exact technical flaws that doomed the original architecture. Now, Kaveri 2.0 is scaling that success right back up into a full-fledged fighter-class turbine engine through a highly structured 3-phase roadmap. Phase 1, of course, is to finalize the current afterburning prototype to reliably deliver a 73 kilonewton thrust profile. Phase 2 shall conduct live flight testing by integrating the engine directly onto an older Tejas limited series production airframe, utilizing its native dimensions to minimize structural modification risks. And Phase 3 aims to achieve a highly optimized production standard model capable of pounding out 84 to 85 kilonewtons of thrust, thereby fully matching the parameters required for frontline fighter combat. This technical surge is backed by decades of accumulated Indian material science. The program is utilizing advancements in advanced high-temperature superalloys, a single crystal turbine blade casting technology, highly efficient compressors, and state-of-the-art digital engine control systems to guarantee operational resilience under extreme combat stress. Right now, India's domestic fighter manufacturing lines are facing severe bottlenecks. Fully built Tejas airframes are currently sitting static inside factories because US-based GE Aerospace has failed to deliver F404 in 20 engines on schedule, directly stalling deliveries to the Indian Air Force. Now, compounding the crisis, recent procurement quotes for the more powerful GE F414 engines, which intended to power the upcoming Tejas Mk2 and the prototype of the 5th generation advanced medium combat aircraft, have reportedly skyrocketed to nearly 3 times the initial estimate of 70 to 80 crore rupees per unit. With foreign suppliers squeezing margins and missing deadlines, the Indian defense establishment has realized that true sovereignty cannot be outsourced. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has underscored the absolute urgency, warning that the nation must operate as if the timeline has collapsed, compressing development targets into a tight 5 to 7 year window. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, here's the front page take on it. Kaveri 2.0 is a vital act of self-preservation for India's aerospace ambitions. By transforming laboratory milestones from their drone programs into a full-scale fighter jet engine asset, the DRDO is making a calculated play to insulate its military future from foreign supply chain manipulation. Mastering military turbofans is an incredibly brutal engineering mountain to climb, but continuing to rely on foreign monopolies is a risk India can no longer afford to take. Here's a question that I want to ask you all. Can GTRE and DRDO successfully fast-track flight certifications for Kaveri 2.0, say, within the next 7 years? Or will the historical metallurgical hurdles of high-thrust engines cause even further delays? Let us know what you think in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by AI Network. Like, share, and subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AI. AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, GenAI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Py project created. There is requirement, and this is the environment. So this is the app where you have a Py cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything. That is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker. And these things come automatically.
You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, GenAI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Py project created. There is requirement, and this is the environment. So this is the app where you have a Py cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything, that is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker. And these things come automatically.
You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
Hello and welcome to Front Page by AM Network. I'm Antara and today we are diving deep into India's evolving developer ecosystem, the reality of AI adoption, cloud infrastructure, and the next wave of intelligent application development. Joining me to unpack all of this is Sanjeev Chauhan, Vice President of Cloud Engineering at Oracle India. Sanjeev, welcome to Front Page. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Antara, for having here.
Absolute pleasure, Sanjeev. Sanjeev, let's just jump right in. For the past 2 years, most organizations have been experimenting with artificial intelligence, right? And yet many still struggle to move beyond pilots and proofs of concept. Now, recently, TCS launched India's first Oracle AI data platform lab and Center of Excellence in Kolkata. Now, this was specifically designed to help enterprises turn data into actionable intelligence and deploy AI-driven automation at scale. Would you say that the conversation has finally shifted from which AI model should we use to how do we operationalize AI across the enterprise?
Yes, across the enterprise market, the conversation has clearly evolved from which AI model should we use to how we will operationalize AI security at scale with a measurable business outcome. While selecting the right language model remains important, organizations recognize that long-term success depends upon having the right data platform, governance, security, and infrastructure. So success is no longer defined by what AI model that you're using, but it is actually defined by organizational ability to operationalize AI, which is connecting models to their enterprise data, and which is where the organizations like Oracle play a very, very important role. And what you mentioned about the TCS, launch of TCS, AI performance lab in Calcutta, that is very important for all our customers and also for the large enterprise, which are trying to operationalize their data store and start leveraging the key frontier AI model to generate business outcomes for themselves.
Absolutely, Sanjeev. And since, we are talking about Oracle, what role do platforms like, Oracle AI data platform, autonomous AI database, vector search, and OCI really play in helping customers, make that particular transition?
Yeah, so what these platforms do, they sort of, let's say, complete the overall story that many organizations are missing as far as the larger picture is concerned. Because we are all thinking of, let's say, the frontier AI model is the end goal. Yeah. But the end goal is essentially, let's say, getting the enterprise AI data to these frontier AI model and work on a business outcome. And we have all the tools from Oracle to ensure all of these could be integrated together in the best possible fashion. So if you look at various components that Oracle has, and traditionally the large enterprises have always trusted Oracle with their enterprise data, world's most critical business data resides today in Oracle platform. And what we have done with that is the next version of Oracle technology, especially around the AI database, helps ensure that you can bring all of these AI models right inside the data that you have via enterprise without having to change anything from the business applications point of view. So which essentially meant if the customers wanted agents to sit right on their database, that they can do that right now without making changes in their application stack. If they wanted to adopt a lot of these open source tools and utilities that they've been using historically and have built their data platform, they can continue to use that with the AI data platform. It brings all of these data from various applications together in a single platform. So having said that, starting from bringing intelligence in the core database where they're running all of these business intelligence to bringing the entire organization data structure together. So Oracles have tools today that can help that whole intelligence bring together as part of a ready-made offering that the customer can use to get the outcome faster and not really worry about, let's say, which AI model to choose or which agentic AI platform to adopt.
Understood, Sanjeev. Thank you for answering that. I would like to shift gears here a little bit. That transition to production obviously requires a massive talent, which brings me to my next point here, really. Oracle recently announced a major collaboration with UPSDM to train, I believe, 300,000 students and professionals across the state of Uttar Pradesh in AI, cloud, cybersecurity, and data science. Right. So my question to you is, what does Oracle see on the ground that justifies investing at this absolutely incredible scale?
Yeah, so if you look at Oracle, these are some of the recent announcements. But if you look at Oracle pedigree of working very closely with the community and the user groups, so we have a very long-standing relationship with the community and user groups. We run Oracle user groups and participate in other user group forums to ensure the talent, at the grassroots level is developed and that they can make use of these skills within the country to use technologies for the most complex of the use cases that our customers could imagine. The second is that these user group forums have ensured that whatever is the local feedback in terms of new enhancements and technology requirements, and you could clearly think of India being the leading edge of digital transactions. The amount of transactions that we see digitally every day in India, whether it is UPI, whether it is Aadhaar, that has surpassed every other country globally. So which essentially meant that feedback is very important for us to enhance our product for performance, security and scale. And we use this community also for that feedback loop. So that's essentially the work that we have done over decades within, let's say, our customers and the user base in India.
Right.
Additionally, we see essentially three things. One is the demand for AI skills is growing faster than which is the available talent pool in India.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's absolutely important that we invest our time with the larger community, and the announcements like this only helps us reach our goals faster. The second part that we see is India offers exceptional combination of scale, talent, and innovation, because clearly the STEM educated student that we have in India is a very large population, right? And that talent is waiting for AI education where they are given the right tools and skills. So at least then they can be used by different organizations for AI ready outcomes within their organization. And then, we believe that AI is ultimately more about people than technology, right? So you can very well, let's say, have these new models, new technical tools for, individuals and organizations to leverage. But at the end of the day, the outcome has to be used by, let's say, the end user, customers, businesses, right? And it is to ensure that it increases productivity, helps bring innovation to in their day-to-day life. They can uncover, the insights that they were not able to because of the amount of data that these organizations were having. So I think the need for grassroots level investment has always been there, right? So what we are looking at is, in addition to the investment that we have done historically with user groups, I think this investment of working with the government scale, because they can give us the platform for reaching out to the larger audience, and we can also make the grassroots level impact, right? And UP government announcement is first in series where, let's say, we're working with many government departments to ensure we could, let's say, also roll it out at a much larger scale.
Understood. Sort of building on top of the talent aspect of this conversation, why do you think India continues to be one of the most important talent markets for the future of artificial intelligence?
So I think if you look at, if we have to deploy things at scale, right? I think if you look at historically and last couple of years, I think the digital adoption from, we were called digitally not very savvy country, from mobile phone penetration to access to data, and now moving from a cash economy to a cashless economy in just last couple of years, clearly demonstrates that India is going to be at the leading edge of not just creating things but also adopting things. And I think in the technology world, the technology is driven by the adoption and not really by the creation, right? A lot of times, you would move needle by creators and not by the users. But in most cases, especially the AI and also, let's say, digital adoption, it is usually done by the people who adopt it faster. And we've seen that in last couple of years, the education plays a key role, but access to technology, digital devices, access to data, we've clearly seen that we have surpassed the rest of the the global population in terms of the number of users who have access to technology and making use of these AI tools faster than everybody else. So we continue to believe that we are going to be the leading edge of all of these AI adoption and AI creations, and which is where you see not just us, but GCCs globally and the large workforce from the global companies, whether it is AI and other enterprise, is based here in India, right? So they're creating not just for India, but they're also creating for globe. So we sincerely believe, based on what we see in the marketplace and plus, let's say, the grassroots level innovation that is happening in India, we are going to be the front force of not just user base, but also the creator base for AI.
Right, absolutely, Sanjeev. It's also very fascinating to sort of see the focus shift towards empowering that talent to build tangible solutions, right? Now, for the past 2 years, I believe the AI industry has largely focused on models. Now the conversation appears to be shifting towards deployment and integration and governance and actual business outcomes. So what I want to know from you is, from your perspective, what are the customers prioritizing today?
I think the customers are, so if you look at historically what has been done by the customers is, of course, there's I won't call noise, but there's, of course, enthusiasm about what is happening around them. And what is the art of possible of leveraging what is happening around them for a greater business outcome, right? So you hear new things about the frontier AI model, where these models are capable of, doing the internet scale learning, right? And they're capable of fantastic outcomes, right? And people are using them for a variety of things these days, whether it is, doing KYC at scale, whether doing fraud detection at scale. And that is definitely helping at the grassroots level. But the adoption was fairly slow. So I think most of them started with conversation AI, building chatbots for their customer, doing primarily, let's say, the entry point of their customer request management and sort of, let's say, demand generation. But now what we are seeing now is the next phase of adoption, where the customers are clearly looking at that, all of this must result into some tangible business outcome for us, right? And which is where it is important that, and if you look at how these large language models are trained, they're trained on the internet data. And what customers are looking at is bring that large language model capability right there inside their business application, right? And most of these companies are also skeptical that their workflows, business documentation, their own internal business, KPIs, and also their data should not be, let's say, used for training these large language model. And then tomorrow, these capabilities are available to their customers as one prompt away, right? So for them, it is important that all of this is done securely, scale, and generate a business outcome right there where their data is, right? And which is where we are differentiating from the rest of the industry. And we're also seeing that is the approach most customers are adopting, is that they're wanting to bring this AI to them. And which is where you see the sovereignty around AI and ask from many of these customers that I would want to, let's adopt all of these great things that frontier AI model has to adopt. but I want to do it securely right there in my data center, right, or right there for my application. So the focus from the initial skepticism to adopting it for peripheral application is now the interest is getting deeper into how do I drive, let's say, business outcome and create a competitive advantage for myself. At the very same time, not losing my own IP and my own internal data points to the external world. So that is the direction that we are seeing, at least with our customers.
Sanjeev, would you say that is what also separates organizations from successfully deploying artificial intelligence from, those who are still stuck in the proof of concept mode?
Absolutely. Yeah. So which is where I mentioned that initial skepticism to enthusiasm to the outcome that has been, let's say, for many organizations has been not a seamless journey, because you could have, let's say, initial enthusiasm by looking at what the users are adopting that in their private life, right? So they can go to one of these public LLM model can generate nice images and documents. At the very same time, while you want to bring that intelligence within their own application, it has been a journey for themselves, because there's skepticism, there is a concern around security, etc. Right. So I think, which is where, from proof of concept prototyping to the journey has taken a little bit different direction for each one of these organizations who started this path. And what we are seeing now is clearly the expectation that we want to generate that outcome for ourselves faster. And I should be able to integrate my business data and what I do, let's say, as an organization internally, and make use of some of these LLM models to create that new business idea for us, competitive advantage for us in the marketplace, do my work efficiently, address my customer demand better, find out fraudulent transactions in case I'm lending money to somebody, write my, do my insurance rewriting faster, more securely, protecting me against any fraud that might happen to my business, right? Okay. So all of these are the core concerns for which today, a lot of human intelligence, a lot of work they've done historically to make these things successful for them. I think all of that is something that they want to handhold along with the AI to ensure this outcome could be faster. They could scale at a much different rate what they're doing today.
Sanjeev, what I wanted to know from you was, why do you feel are model builders and cloud providers suddenly moving downstream into services and deployment?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sandra. So if you look at the next phase of success is of all these large frontier AI model is going to be how well they're adopted by the businesses for outcome which justifies that level of investment. And for that to happen, all of these have to be integrated with core critical app, which is the application that can do business, their customer front-ending application, their internal business operation application, their manufacturing back-end systems, right? So all of they have to be connected with these models to ensure these businesses can see the outcome of the investment they're making. And for that to happen, you have to have folks who understand these models well, can work with customers in their enterprise and help integrate both of them very, very efficiently and in a manner that that doesn't impact all of the existing operations that the customer is currently running. I think that integration is very important. I think everybody realizes it, and that's the reason they're making investment, which is the rightful thing to do for them to focus in this space where rather than innovating more and adding more models, they're all investing to ensure this is adopted well in the existing business applications.
Certainly,
yeah. So the success that we've had at Oracle is that we were always an enterprise focused company. So last 48 plus years, when we built our first technology, we have had, let's say, folks from our technical and engineering team sitting right there with the customer, ensure the product and technology is adopted in their business workflow, in their business application. So we have this head start of many, many years where we understand customer workflow, we understand customer data. Customer hosts this data on Oracle platform. And we've had these technical engagements with these customers for decades together, where we understand what is the outcome these customers want to generate for their own customers, right? Whether it is, building a secure backend pipeline for, let's say, KYC verification or insurance rewriting, or for doing large business transactions at scale, booking airline and train tickets at scale. So we understand that very well. And now bringing the AI as integral part of those workflows, right? We are very well positioned that where we are able to leverage all of our existing assets at these customers, bring these AI models and bring our technical skills together to generate great outcomes for our existing customers.
Understood, Sanjeev. I also have a follow-up question on this. What are these companies, seeing in enterprise adoption that the market may be underestimating? Would you say that is deployment becoming more valuable than the model access itself?
Yeah, so I think deployment is what drives the business value. And hence, I think the focus has moved completely from, let's say, a feature enhancement in certain model versus what is the outcome. Yeah. And most companies today, if you look at, let's say, most companies, how they're adopting it internally, they are not, choosing one or the other model. It is not choice of A versus B. It is not, net zero gain. They're essentially looking at the models for their own specific purpose. So they may be having host of or library of model that they use for a variety of use cases, right? So if they have, a business outcome, and for that business outcome, they train that model. They train a variety of models on their own business data and see what delivers the best possible outcome. And they choose the best possible outcome for their business application, right? So it's essentially, a library of these capabilities that they use in their existing applications, right? So clearly, the models are important, which helps, let's say, give this additional edge and intelligence in what they're currently doing. But what matters to them is the end outcome. And they're perfectly okay to choose one versus the other if the other has far higher accuracies versus what they were using earlier, right? And now it is getting into the areas where they are using very, very specific model for a specific task itself. For example, if it is about, let's say, image processing or matching signatures or matching photographs and KYC, they may use a very specific model that may reside within their data center. But if it is about, let's say, doing a large language conversation or doing, different language translation, they may use a large language model hosted at a different location altogether, because they're not moving data, they're just using it for its capability of doing translation at scale, right? So what is important at businesses these days is they use the right thing for the right purpose, so it drives the right outcome. So the conversations are not really led by the choice of a model, but by the outcome they generate. And for that, they're perfectly okay to leverage many things together.
Understood. As AI companies move closer to customers, who ultimately owns the enterprise relationship, the platform provider, the model company, or the services partner, would you say that could deployment and change management become the defining moat in enterprise AI?
I completely agree. I think, how seamlessly one can change. In the example that I gave you earlier, is that the choice resides with customer, that for a specific purpose, they may use one model or the other. And they want this level of freedom that if a model does not deliver the right outcome, they are happy to choose another for the great outcome, right? So I think slowly the trend is emerging more and more that what we need is be closer to the customer, be closer to these applications and these business processes that are truly looking for the right outcome, and that outcome at a scale very, very securely, right? So which meant, it is important that, all of us in technology, AI, work with customers for, that adoption and that outcome. And once that is in place and customers see success, I'm sure these models will learn, there'll be larger technical education to the customers and the larger workforce within the country. And over a period of time, the overall outcome across not just the industry, but across the businesses will improve significantly.
Understood. Speaking of moats, Sanjeev, Oracle has historically differentiated itself through deep enterprise relationships and mission-critical workloads and industry-specific expertise, right? Now, as AI companies increasingly move into implementation and deployment, like we were talking, where exactly does Oracle see its role in the artificial intelligence value chain?
Yeah, on the lighter side, I think moat is usually treated as a defensive strategy. And that is a very relevant question to somebody that who's been in this market for last 4+ decade, that, are we, how exactly things work when the AI is changing everything. And how I look at it is that, we have a strong presence with, our customers in terms of they hosting their trusted data with Oracle. And you could think of it across industries and governance. And all of these companies have been leveraging Oracle for decades. And we've been in India for last, 3+ decades, running applications from core banking to core insurance, core telecom applications, etc. And the trust the customers have had in us because we have delivered, the outcomes at a scale while securing the data for them, right? And so what we see that is that we see that as an advantage and not just as moat. So what we've done is that over last, many years, we have been ourselves adopting these technology trends, and we are working on areas like bring AI to customer rather than taking customer data to AI. And that's a strong differentiator, what we see with us versus, let's say, the rest of the industry. And slowly industry is pivoting towards the same, where you don't have to bring your data to a large AI model. Rather, you could, let's say, keep your data where you have, and you could leverage these large language models. And that sort of has worked, very well as far as, for Oracle and our customers, where we have brought in these new enhancements in technology, which is around AI database. So you can now run AI in your applications wherever you're currently running. You could do, document management at scale. You could do image verification and image to text, text to images right there wherever you are hosting your existing applications, which meant things like, KYC verification, signature verification. You could do that, while wherever your application today sit, rather than moving data to, public internet. Then we have things like, the AI data platforms, which essentially meant that you could leverage large analytics of, let's say, a variety of applications that are running in your data center today at scale without you having to move data to public internet. And similarly, many, many tools and techniques that we use to ensure that we bring AI to customer data rather than taking data to a public internet for any sort of, let's say, enhancement using AI, right? So we see that as an advantage to us. And that advantage is what, let's say, customer want to continue to leverage, because they can leverage their existing investment, what they made over years. And all of that has served very well for them. What they need is this additional enhancement and not just the core transformation of their entire IT stack, right? And we're very well placed. We work with all the frontier AI models. We work with other hyperscaler partners in the market, which essentially meant our technology is available everywhere, right? And wherever customer wants to host this, whether it is within their data center, other hyperscalers, Oracle cloud data centers in Mumbai and Hyderabad, these technology stacks are available to them. So we clearly see this as not just moat, but also, let's say, a great advantage Oracle has over the rest of the industry.
Certainly, Sanjeev. Would you say that the long-term advantage, that belong to companies that build the most powerful models, companies that own the infrastructure, or companies that help enterprises turn AI into measurable business outcomes?
Yes, so I think, I don't think it's a zero-sum game, right? Everybody has, let's say, a role to play. So if you look at the frontier AI companies are doing a fantastic work of, let's say, doing internet scale learning, right? And it is improving over, let's say, a period of time. You clearly see what has changed in the last 4 to 5 years, where these AI models have become very, very powerful. And they are not just looking at one dimension of, just language translation. They're looking at a variety of dimensions. I'm sure you've heard of, let's say, security testing using the AI model, where they can do a penetration testing of the entire technology stack at scale, which sort of, let's say, protect businesses against these hackers and these attacks, which, over a period of time, if we put that as a proactive approach within our application, that goes a long way in protecting our business investment. At the very same time, if it is all not about, let's say, just the AI model, the adoption in the business is very important, right? You could burn a lot of tokens for just prompting and ensuring that the entire organization is educated in how to, let's say, use this prompt, but you may not deliver any outcome, right? So it is very important for these organizations that when they're investing in these large frontier AI model subscriptions, is they're making a reasonable outcome on business, right? And I think combination of these two is what is the most powerful outcome. For education purpose, tokens are great, where the entire IT workforce is educated in terms of how to use and prompt on AI. But the real value is when you embed this as part of your core applications. And now you could do things at scale, and you could uncover, let's say, competitive advantage which you couldn't do that earlier, right? I think I see the combination of those two, and I don't see, let's say, one versus the other.
Certainly, Sanjeev. I also want to bring the focus back to India now. India's global capability center ecosystem is expanding rapidly, while our startups are, building increasingly sophisticated AI native products. Now, from Oracle's vantage point, where is the most exciting innovation happening today?
So I think the most exciting innovation is happening, it's a combination of the GCCs and the partners who are, let's say, working with end customer use cases, right? So, there's a lot of work being done in the organization who are currently spending a lot of time and energy in improving these large language model. But at the very same time, the combinations of GCCs and the partners who work with customers, they're working on core problems that the customer has, right? So these could be a business opportunity. This could be a core problem that they have that they want to solve. And that is where the real test of technology is, right? It is, can we adopt it at scale? Is it secure enough? Do we get a business value, an outcome of the investment that we are making? I think that is where, let's say, the core use case is being built and the skill being enhanced, because it does two things. So it helps generate an outcome. At the very same time, everybody involved in that whole process get educated in terms of what are the capabilities of these systems, right? So I think that is what we are seeing is at the end customer, there's business challenges and the opportunities to grow. That is the place where all of this is tested at scale. Right. And we're working with our GCC partners in India. We're working with all our system integrator partners, educate them and ensure, let's say, they have capabilities to, deal with this at a customer, customer landscape. At the very same time, as I mentioned earlier, we are working with the state governments to ensure we, scale education at scale. So at least the basic education around AI and how to use these tools is there with everybody. And with all of this, I think then the adoption and it is, we are going to move from enthusiasm to, let's say, actually the adoption stage very, very quickly, right? Because every organization is a different stage of maturity. Most, let's say, the small and medium scale, you would find them at the level of enthusiasm where they're still exploring, and many organizations still playing with tokens and doing, let's say, just internal testing. But there are many that who have reached the next stage of maturity, especially many fintech startups in India, many large businesses in India who's reached the next maturity stage of actually embedding this as part of their core application.
Yes.
And I think the only task that we have at hand is ensure the basic education is very quickly in place and we can work with our customers for actual real outcomes.
Sanjeev, in terms of India's next AI wave, what opportunities do you believe India is uniquely positioned to lead over, say, the next decade?
I think a couple of things. One, that our IT maturity is great. At this point in time, I don't want to compare against, let's say, the rest of the emerging economies, but we've clearly seen the scale of adoption in last couple of years, right? With the mobile devices penetration, with the the data and network penetration access by the users, and then I think our users and our citizens took this UPI and digital banking as like fish to the water, right? And it is very, very quickly adopted, right? So if you clearly see, we have moved from a cash economy to cashless economy in the last couple of years, right? We do far more number of digital transactions versus the rest of the world put together, right? So if you look at that area, so we're clearly well placed when it comes to, let's say, adoption in technology. And the number of users that in India, whether it is employees, citizens, they use AI tools, it is the number is much bigger and better than the rest of the world. So that is one area that I feel that there's an audience which is ready to accept and adopt these tools and technologies in India.
Absolutely.
The second is we have the highest number of STEM educated, individuals that are coming out of colleges that are currently working in enterprise. So the basic education level is way, way higher versus let's say the rest of the industry, which meant that our adoption to understand technology at the scale where we can actually build and get it adopted very, very quickly is much higher versus the rest of the world. And third is the grassroots level innovation, right? So you hear things like Bhashini, which is the local language translation built by NIC. And you see a lot of these fintech and AI startups in the country, right, which are just bootstrapping from very small, very humble and small beginning and using sort of, let's say, technology tools, open source, and find a customer problem and start working with them. And fourth is, I think, our businesses are ready to take that risk. What I see is that most of the large enterprises are happy to onboard a small startup who's working on a niche problem that the many big companies don't want to touch. I think that is another trend that we are seeing, that with all these 3-4 things put together, I think we are best suited for the next level of growth and being better adopter of AI versus the rest of the world.
Okay. All right, Sanjeev. Of course, driving that innovation are the developers after all. Now, there has never been more excitement around AI development, but also there has never been so much noise either, right? So when you speak to developers, startups and enterprise engineering teams, what do you think the industry is overestimating? And conversely, what do you think the industry is underestimating?
I think what industry is overestimating is the complexity of tools and let's say just focus on models versus let's say the outcome, right? Okay. So there's a lot of focus on the noise around tool and technology, and things are getting outdated faster than ever. Yeah. So the users look at or hear about a technology and immediately hooked on to, let's say, spending and investing their entire bandwidth in learning that tool and technology, rather than thinking what exactly the outcome this delivers. Okay. I think the excessive amount of time that folks are spending today is on understanding capabilities of a certain model and, just focused on just learning what is available today as the latest tool versus what is the outcome that I'm looking at. I think that is one area that I think needs a reset. Okay. And the second area where I think we have to move from enthusiasm to the outcome stage, where slowly the focus is coming, but I think it still needs a lot of attention and focus as far as developers is concerned. Find a problem that needs a solution, right? Many of these are already, let's say, documented need, but there are lots of undocumented need which still exist around us, which is where all these fintech and startup space is currently looking at those problem statements and building businesses out of them. I think these are two areas that I think where we are investing too much of our bandwidth in, finding out what a certain model deliver and what certain tool does. But these models and tools are, being replaced by the next version very, very quickly. And the users are just overwhelmed by, let's say, learning these new set of tools and technology rather than working actually on outcome. Versus what businesses really want, where they'll invest money, is outcome. So look at those problems which need solution and use these tools. Does not matter what version it is. Just use the tool to ensure the outcome is generated for the end business.
Absolutely, Sanjeev. Sanjeev, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation. And in the interest of time, I want to wrap up with one final thought here. For years, the technology industry rewarded developers for writing software. Now, the next decade may reward developers for orchestrating intelligence. Now, as AI becomes part of every application, workflow, and business process, success may no longer depend on, who's writing the most code, right? It may depend on who can combine the trusted data and AI infrastructure and cloud platforms, governance, and automation into real-world outcomes. So my final question before I let you go is this. What will it take for India to become, not just one of the world's largest developer ecosystems, but one of the world's most important AI builder ecosystem, Sanjeev?
So I think we, of course, need, let's say, a lot of these grassroots level innovation, where, one is that, as you rightly mentioned, that the building the amount of code may not be important, and today that can be generated by using any of these AI tools. So you can build a fully functional application by just doing some prompts or speaking to the application, right? And what matters is the outcome by orchestrating these tools together, right? And these tools and some of these models are getting, are being replaced by the next available model, which has better outcome, better capabilities versus the earlier ones, right? So I think what will definitely help, India is the one that grassroots level innovation, that where, people are finding these problems and building solutions for them. And that could be as quick as, let's say, orchestrating these available tools together and building solutions that could be used readily by the end businesses, right? That is one area that I see. Second is, I think, which is where we are spending a lot of time, is the grassroots level education. Because the conversation should not be driven by the capabilities of a model or by what tools are available today. Because the tools will get, let's say, replaced, anytime sooner. So what is that is important is for them to understand the basics of how this whole thing works together. How does the whole orchestration work together, right? And whenever there's a enhancement or change, how do you adopt to that enhancement and change? Because your focus is always on that end outcome in the use case, right? Whatever means that you use to deliver that outcome, that is a secondary story, right? The third area which we clearly believe in is, the industry and the academia collaboration, okay? Because a lot of these things are, coming from, let's say, a research point of view. There's a lot of work being done in research around technology, models, etc. And the businesses have the need for, let's say, using all of that knowledge base and adopting it as part of their, core business outcomes, right? So these are three things that I see, that is required. And I think government is doing enough. They are building the AI infrastructure, AI education programs to ensure that the large scale enablement of individuals could be done. They're giving access to the models, plus, let's say, building their own infrastructure. So the small and medium scale industries could, let's say, train on those models, right? There's a lot of local innovations around local AI being built, right? In addition to startup, I did mention about Bhashini, where, the government is using that as is the translation and the conversation mode between different regional languages. So anybody want to, let's say, work with the government departments, and they could, originate from any part of the country. They could literally just integrate with this and can speak to any application. Doesn't matter what language background they come from. So I think these are the grassroots level innovation that is required, investment to be done, where government is doing enough, industry is doing their bit. Like Oracle, we are investing in education programs. I think with the combination of these two, I think we're on the right path. We only need to scale it to the level which meets the requirement for a country like us of, let's say, 1.4 billion population.
Thank you, Sanjeev, for answering that. It's in fact a brilliant note to end on. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Sanjeev Chauhan, Vice President of Cloud Engineering at Oracle India. And Sanjeev, thank you so much for this enthralling conversation and for joining us here on Front Page today. And for whoever is tuned in right now, thank you so much for our audiences for tuning in. Until next time. AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, GenAI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Py project created. There is requirement. And this is the environment. So this is the app where you have a Py cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything, that is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker. And these things come automatically.
You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, GenAI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Py project created. There is requirement. And this is the environment. So this is the app where you have a Py cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything, that is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker. And these things come automatically.
You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. I'm Antara and you're watching Point Break. For the last 2 years, the AI race was about one thing. Who has the best model? Who scores the highest on benchmarks? Who raises the most capital? The race, however, is not over, but something else has also started simultaneously. AWS has committed $1 billion to forward deployed engineering. Microsoft has launched Frontier Company with $2.5 billion and nearly 6,000 engineers. Google Cloud, in fact, is investing $750 million. Anthropic has launched, I believe, a $1.5 billion AI native services venture. OpenAI has created its deployment company backed by $4 billion. And in fact, it's not just that. Cognizant, in fact, is scaling its Frontier workforce to 5,000 engineers and 10,000 business operators. So collectively, Frontier AI companies have committed almost $10 billion, not to building smarter models, but to getting AI working inside the enterprises. Now, the message is becoming hard to ignore here. The next AI race may not be won by whoever is, building the smartest model. In fact, it might be won by whoever gets artificial intelligence actually working inside real businesses. And at the center of that race is a role that barely even existed 3 years ago. The forward deployed engineer, part consultant, part product builder, part AI operator. They sit, in fact, directly with the customers, turning foundation models into measurable business outcomes. So today we are asking, who really owns deployment? What does that matter? And does that really matter? Then who owns the model? I'm Antara. This is Point Break. Let's get right into it. Today I have with me three guests, each of them inside the shift from a very different vantage point, from a very different position. I'll start with Neeraj Gupta, who is the co-founder and CPO of RevRag.ai, a Bengaluru-based AI agents company, building autonomous multilingual AI agents for revenue teams across fintech, banking, lending, and insurance. He has, in fact, seen firsthand what it actually takes to get artificial intelligence working inside large enterprises, not just in a demo, but in a production. Neeraj, it's a true pleasure to have you here on Point Break. Second guest today here with me is Tushar Shinde, who is the co-founder and CEO of Vani AI, which is a deep tech startup building what he calls the Stripe for voice AI. Tushar is in fact building the full stack infrastructure that allows enterprises to deploy human-like multilingual voice agents in days rather than months. Vani, in fact, is part of the Google for Startups AI Accelerator 2025 cohort and serves enterprise clients, including SBI Life Insurance across India, Europe, and the Middle East. Tushar, good to have you here. And last but not the least, my third guest today is Somshubhra Palchoudhury, who is the co-founder and partner at Bharat Innovation Fund, a $100 million plus Series A and Series A venture fund focused exclusively on deep tech and IP-driven startups from India. Som, in fact, brings the investor and deep tech ecosystem lens, the person who really decides which deployment bets are worth backing. Somshubhra, it's great to have you here on Point Break.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's a true pleasure, gentlemen. So let me quickly start with a central question to all the three of you. You know, almost $10 billion is flowing from frontier AI companies into deployment, right? Not model training. Would you say that the AI race has actually moved from models to deployment? And also, what does it, really tell you that the companies closest to the frontier have all decided at the same time that this is where the battle is now?
So if you want, I can kind of get started.
Absolutely. Please do.
And see, as you rightly pointed out, for the last several years, few years, the entire thing about the AI race was building the smartest model, building the AI infrastructure, and so forth. But today, this whole concept has gone into the enterprise. The bottleneck is not the intelligence. As you see, the models have gone really, really smart everywhere. It is all about deployment, right? But enterprises don't buy AI models. They buy business outcomes, right? So that's one of the reasons what you're saying, that forward deployment engineers who actually understand the model, they understand the business aspects, what the company is trying to transform, their business processes and so forth. And that is coming out as a very important role. And at the same time, if you see, what is the message out from the enterprises? AI demo works. In production, it doesn't, right? So a bank can actually build an AI loan assistant almost over the weekend. Bunch of the enterprise guys are building up these AI agents and so forth, multiple of them. But what about interfacing it with the entire system at the back end? The audits, the trails, making things deterministic. This is where kind of things are failing today, just by leaving it to the LLMs, right? So at the end of the day, the enterprises just don't want the models. They want to see ROI. So, I like to, close my thoughts saying that the biggest challenge in AI today is not generating intelligence. I'd say it's integrating intelligence into the enterprise. That's the biggest challenge.
Certainly. And I'm sure a lot of us would agree with you on that. Tushar, Neeraj, you want to add on to that?
Yeah.
Maybe Tushar can start and Neeraj, you can add on to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Som sir was absolutely bang on that. But I see it from a lens where how every innovation cycle has taken place so far. In fact, when electricity came out, maybe in early 1900s, a lot of time went into setting up that infrastructure, setting up the poles, setting up the wires. So, in fact, for AI, that has happened between 2022 November till 2026, where we are sitting, right? It's been just like 3-4 years. But when electricity got into like mainframe adoptions, it went for like decades. It went on for decades, right? So the final outcome for any innovation is when somebody else uses it, the consumer uses it and pays for it. That's how all of the investments are justified upstream. For AI, that cycle has reduced so drastically, like where it could have taken, say, 20 years to create the infra, and then maybe another 20 years to create the distribution, that has shortened to maybe 2 + 2 years or 2 + 3 years. So I see it from that angle. I don't think that the model development or the model improvement would stop. Maybe we would see more adoption into different modalities, like people have started innovating a lot on making these intelligent models sound very human-like. Maybe they can increase their accuracies. Maybe the people like Fefeli and Ann LeCun working on world models. So we'll see different types of models and different types of intelligence coming into the space. So a lot of innovation is still yet to happen, but a lot of investment is also going into actually making it useful for businesses. And this is not only true for enterprises. We also work with a lot of SMBs and mid-market companies. The problem stays the same. AI can't work out of the box. There has to be somebody who makes it work for them in terms of making the business outcomes, meeting the business outcomes. So yeah,
Certainly.
We are right at the center of it.
Certainly, Tushar. Neeraj, you want to add on to that?
So I think like Tushar, the kind of analogy you gave with the electricity, right? It makes sense. And at the same time, what Sir told, right? That is also correct, right? Enterprises do empathize what kind of effort the companies are making in terms of development and this stuff, right? But eventually they sit on the table and they ask, right, what is the ROI? And from there the discussion starts, right? Having said this, like, so for us, what I would say is, right, we started with the bottom top, right? So what I have seen is that, like, we started working with the enterprises, right? We got a lot of support, right? But I think that like a time came, right, when we were giving the ROI, but at the same time, lot of competitors also were there in the market, right, which forced us to basically exploit the ROI for those companies as well, right? So one pattern which I have seen, and Tushar, the example you gave, right, definitely those things are there, right, where lot of corrections will be happening, right? A lot of patience will be there, right? But for example, in our team, right, let's say we have this understanding that, like, okay, this is the best possible solution to this use case, right? But tomorrow the same enterprise, right? Enterprise works with like multiple companies, right? They themselves will tell that, like, hey, this has been solved, right? And we were in different like zone as well, right? Okay, maybe this is not breaking at the moment, so we'll pick it up like after 6 months, right? And that expedites everything. So what we have seen is that the competitor space plus like the sir said, right, the intelligence is something that is already there, right? It is all about bringing ROI on the table. But good thing is that, like, with the enterprise working with them, for sure they empathize, right? They understand what kind of solutions you are bringing. But eventually, after a month or 2 months or 3 months, yes, everything converges on the ROI.
I like to add one more piece, if you give me a chance.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So see, the other piece, which is trending in a big way, is that whole concept of token maxing, right? So what used to happen is these large enterprises all over the world, they used to get Claude or GPT, OpenAI, and so forth. And they literally used to keep and give that entire kitchen sink of what they want to do out into Claude. If you guys look a couple of months back, they changed their entire parameter. It was not kind of a buffet anymore. This is based on actual token usage. These guys are also going public, so they want to maximize the token usage and so forth. So that hit the enterprises pretty big, right? If you see what's going on today, a bunch of these enterprises are complaining, from Meta to Uber. Everybody has started complaining about their bills. Their token bills have gone through the roof, right? And hence, if you look at it, enterprises obviously just do not want IQ of these models. They want to optimize for ROI. And that's one of the reasons which I have actually been talking about this for the past 1 year. There's a lot of work that needs to happen in terms of the entire workflow orchestration. You use multiple different models, not just Claude, not the highest end reasoning models. It's about combination of deterministic code, be it calling APIs, be it calling SLMs, and in those rare cases which really require reasoning, you are calling up an LLM. That's the way. In fact, that's the good news. That's the way most of the Indian startups are building. I'm sure, Tushar, Neeraj, you guys are building that way as well. Any enterprise app.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Neeraj, Tushar, and Som for that clarity. I want to steer the ship here a little bit. For years, AI leadership was sort of measured through, benchmarks, reasoning capabilities, model performance. Today, billions are flowing into implementation rather than model training. Now, the signal from the companies closest to the frontier is consistent, right? The bottleneck is implementation at this point, like you very correctly pointed out. So, Neeraj, my question is to you. RevRag is building AI agents that deploy inside enterprise workflows. Now, from what you see on the ground, from your vantage point, has frontier model performance started converging to the point where the model itself is no longer the differentiator? And also, if yes, what actually is then?
Yeah, I think so. It's a great question and 2-3 aspects to it, right? So when we started the business like last year, right, in this domain, so definitely we were using the frontier models, but over the period of time, 2 to 3 reasons actually led us to, or I should say force us to basically use the SLMs per se, right? Or the combinations, right? What Som sir actually explained beautifully. So one is definitely the performance, right? Or the context or the conversation quality per se, right? So for example, if we use the GPT of the worlds, right? And let's say we are very specifically serving the BFSI, right? So the conversation quality, right? SLM holds versus LLM holds, right? Definitely, if you talk out of the context, right? LLM would have better answer any day, right, than the SLM. But 99% of the time, right, conversation with the customers or these basically executing these agents, right, especially for the BFSI, right, whatever is needed can be beautifully can be taken care by the SLMs. Right. And second thing is eventually the cost, right, which is now converging to the cost of the GPUs eventually when you are fine-tuning the SLMs, right? So for us, these two have been the major points. And when I say the conversation quality, so obviously the latency and other parameters which affects the human-like conversations or basically the faster inference, right, whatever we know. So yeah, these 2-3 aspects actually forced us to move towards the SLMs. And now at this time, one of the aspect of our is also to optimize the GPU cost, right? A year back, we were not even thinking about the GPUs, right? We were thinking that like, hey, it is, we will think later on, that is not a problem. But today we are even thinking about the GPUs aggressively.
Certainly, Neeraj. Thank you for answering that with so much clarity. Tushar, I want to ask you the same question from the voice infrastructure side. Now, Vani, I believe, is building full stack voice AI infrastructure, right? You have said that most pilots in the space fail to reach production because of latency and inconsistency. Is that the deployment problem in a nutshell? That, models are good enough, but infrastructure around them isn't? And is that why, the $10 billion is now going into deployment?
Yeah, actually, it is not about only latency or only accuracy. There are a lot of engineering aspects to it. So say, for example, as Neeraj rightly pointed it out, model, they have evolved to a level that it should be driving certain outcome. That outcome wouldn't happen if there is not an engineering layer or engineering talent working around those models. Now, this engineering could be, say, a lot of engineering goes into building these SLMs and putting them at the right places. Another piece of engineering would go into building self-evolving architectures. Like enterprises are getting these models, adopting these models, because eventually they want to cut down their maybe spending or they want to increase their top line. How would that happen? If the costs keep on diminishing, costs would only diminish if you're somehow putting, say, some sort of caching mechanism or SLMs in there, so that over the period of time, these tiny models learn something by themselves so that the actual commoditized bigger model do not get hit a lot. And of course, you won't hit the token maxing. So all of that relates to your engineering aspects of things. So we have spent, I think, last 3-4 years into innovating on the model capabilities. Now, maybe next 3-4 years would be innovating on the engineering capabilities. Like, how can we make this model works in a way that they evolve? There may be consume lesser tokens. They may be do every piece of those hops in as lesser latency as possible. All of the layers from evals, from observability, from actually what is driving outcome, all of that goes hand in hand coherently. All of these comes under that singular infrastructure umbrella. And I think that directly ties down to the application layer where the FDs come into the picture. So once we get past to the engineering, then I think it is mostly about going to be distribution.
Understood. Understood, Tushar. Thank you for that clarification. So, you back deep tech startups. Now, from the investment side, would you say that enterprises are going to ultimately care more about outcomes rather than about which model powers those outcomes?
Absolutely. I think there will be a combination of multiple models within an enterprise, right? But enterprises, see, many of the customers and so forth we have talked to, demo-wise, everybody has done well. But at the end of the day, think about it. At the end of the day, any model today is non-deterministic. That's the basic problem. So how do you make, this is what many of these CIOs and so forth are struggling with. How do you ensure that this model is giving me a very deterministic answer every time? Today, frankly speaking, one ChatGPT, if you give the same question, the same prompt 5 times, it gives you 5 different answers, right? So the question happens that how do you make it deterministic? How do you ensure that this is not just kind of a black box? I can audit, I can do some amount of trailing aspect to ensure that whatever finally it gives out to my customers is rock solid. Okay. So that's where, a lot of these aspects. So Tushar brought up the entire engineering aspect of deploying it within the enterprise, testing it, guardrailing it so that it doesn't go haywire.
Right.
Those are the nuances that actually needs to happen once you deploy. And that is one of the reasons I would say, if you see all of these reports and so forth, people complain about very few of them have actually gone deployed out there. Yeah. So the more deterministic you can do, see, the good news is today, everybody is writing code with Claude. Okay, so that's great. And what I'm hearing from everybody, that has matured like anything. But then the question comes, if you're writing up the code and so forth, few areas has to be very deterministic code. Few areas has to be very specific API calls, right? So that amount of architecture, that amount of deciding how you guys are going to deploy this within the enterprise so that you make it most deterministic as possible, right? What happens, what I have seen, and this is what I'm asking all of our startups to do as well. You take an enterprise task, you break it down into multiple subtasks, even micro tasks, right? For each one of these micro tasks and subtasks, you are actually writing code using maybe Claude as well. But then you are ensuring, how do you see for the reasoning task, you are probably calling up LLMs. For the data related aspects, you need some data crunching and so forth. Maybe you are writing Python code to write the logic, right? To make it more deterministic, or calling up a very specific SLM. That's what I call pure orchestration engineering. That's what enterprises need today, I believe.
Absolutely. Quite a riveting answer.
Not doing everything over to Claude in a kitchen sink and it goes into an enormous loop, burns out tokens, right? That's not the way to do things. Yeah.
Certainly, Shom. Quite a riveting take on that. And since we are talking about deployment, as an investor, would you say the deployment is becoming more valuable than the model access in terms of where durable value actually gets built? And also, are we entering what some are calling the last mile phase of AI?
Yeah, I completely agree. If you look at the consumer world where ChatGPT still leads, in the enterprise world, of course, thanks to coding, Claude has completely taken off. I believe the revenue for these models, the humongous infrastructure builds and so forth, will come from the enterprises. Right? So we have to somehow solve the enterprise ROI problems.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen, for that. I want to go back to the basics a little bit here. Let's get specific about, what a forward deployed engineer actually is and why everyone is suddenly wanting one, right? So the forward deployed engineer, this category barely existed a few years ago, right? Palantir used the term internally for years. Now we are seeing that Microsoft, AWS, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google Cloud, Palantir, even Server AI for that matter, are all aggressively hiring them, right? Microsoft alone, for example, wants 6,000. That is nearly double I believe, the entire current global FDE talent pool. Tushar, my question is to you here. By this point, we know what is a forward deployed engineer, right? But I believe the question is this. Right. Why can't enterprises deploy AI themselves? Because on the surface, you would think that, a company with a large technology team should be able to do this. So what is the actual problem that makes them, need someone to come from the outside and sit with them?
Yeah. So here is my thought process around it. In fact, FDE role as a role is not one single role. It is a combination of a lot of roles, right? So it has a consultative aspect of it. It has a business analytics aspect to it. It also has the technology aspect to it. So the person, or in fact, the fleet that we have built internally at Pani, what they do is they have to take on a consulting role when they're discussing a problem with the prospective customer, understanding their use case better, figuring out where all touch points it gets accumulated at in their workflows. That's the consultative aspect. Then as a business analyst, it has to work with all sorts of data that they have generated or they will be generating by implementing that system. That's the BA aspect of it. And then it has to come back and customize most of the systems so that it will get integrated at the right touch points in that entire workflow. And then the fourth aspect is actually the retention aspect, which comes under the mostly in the business growth side. So all of these four roles are culminated into one single role, which is called an FD. So Palantir made this term very, very popular.
Exactly, yeah.
We have started a mainframe adoption of it just from last couple of years. So any typical enterprise, say for example, SBIs of the world, will not have all of these four roles accumulated into one. They may have maybe a sales guy, they may have a couple of consultant employees, they may have certain customer support teams, they may have a VP of sales or VP of customer experience.
Not all in one.
But having all in one for enterprise companies is a very, very hard to achieve role, because enterprises by their operational structure were not evolved in that particular fashion, right? And these are very fast-paced roles. Tech changes every 3 months. AI changes much faster. They can't adopt at this much faster space because they're a giant elephant which can't move. Even to move 1 centimeter, there's a lot of effort. So that has to be coming from somebody in the startup world and not from an enterprise. So that's why this role exists.
Absolutely. Got it, Tushar. Neeraj, from what you observe, would you say that, FDE is the most important job in AI right now? Or would you say it's a transitional role that, one would eventually expect to be replaced?
No, I think that today I will say that there are only two verticals. One is on the engineering side and second is on the FDE side, which matters the most, right? At least for us, right, at the moment. So our experience has been that, for example, when we go to the enterprise, especially in India, right? So they don't have the resources, right? The right resources. So let's say we do have the platform, we can do, and eventually the platform is something, let's say some harness model is there, or basically eventually some agent is there, right? Which we have given, which is simply solving the problem, right? So they do not want to take the responsibility that hey, I will be, implementing it end to end, right? So first they go with the POC, and once the POC gets success, right, then they ask for the deployment, right? End to end into the production, right? So what I have felt is like they want a time period, let's say, and what I see is that could be 1 year or 2 year, where they want the hand holding from our side, let's say, right, for a year or two or whatever, right? But in the meantime, right, they want to create the capability where they want to take the complete takeover as well, right? They do not want to, remain dependent on us, right? At least in our cases, right? When we are solving their use cases one by one, right? So they eventually want that control, right? But in the starting, until we reach the transient stage and they have the confidence that like this is adding ROI in a consistent way, right? So they do not want to take up in their hands. So now coming to the FDs, right? So now there are two parts or two phases of the FDs, I would say, right? So definitely, let's say with one enterprise, we have given, let's say 4 FDs, right? To execute end to end, right? So eventually what would happen is, right, their use cases will also increase. So FDs will also increase, but at the same time, they will start also increasing or basically start developing the skills or basically getting the FDs from outside, right? So that, or they may not call the FDs altogether, right? But they would create the facility so that the complete handover can be taken flawlessly, right? So that is what we have understood. And eventually around 10% or 20% of the companies would be there, right? Who may not want to basically create this vertical altogether, right? They would always be in the relationship with us that like, hey, you will let's take care of this, right? End to end from RevRack side. And we are happy to pay, or basically the ROI completely makes sense, right? So those situations are also coming up, right? So I think pretty much these signals are prominent in our case.
Certainly. My next question is in fact along those lines. And Shom, it's for you. Bharat Innovation Fund backs deep tech and IP-driven companies. So when you see Microsoft committing to 6,000 FDs and AWS committing $1 billion to this function, does that tell you that FDs are very much a permanent profession worth building companies around, or would you also call it a transitional role that will be sort of automated away as tooling matures? What is your take?
I won't consider this as I think Tushar brought this up. See, FDs sit at this intersection of technology, business, model, and economics. Right? So it's a complex piece. See, if you look at traditionally what had happened was somebody provided the cloud platform, somebody provided the software tools, and then there was the Indian IT houses who provided the systems integration, and maybe McKinsey or Accenture or somebody provided kind of the strategic digital transformation goals. Okay. Now, in case of AI, this is, first of all, it's kind of rapidly changing. So it's possible for, different teams or within the enterprise teams to figure out, hey, I have to know what models to use. I know what harness to use. I need to know what guardrails to use. I need to know, what kind of digital transformation I'm going to do by understanding your systems and processes. So this is a very complex task, right? And maybe eventually, as things kind of settle down, it might fall into the domain of the systems integrators or the IT consultants or the AI consultants to kind of come in, understand what is required. The knowledge is kind of stabilized. But today what's happening is the model guys, the AI startups, they have to deploy this kind of intelligence aspect out to the enterprises, because otherwise the enterprises cannot themselves do it. Nobody is ready. Okay, so that's what I believe is the situation. But the other important aspect is the model companies like Anthropic and OpenAI, right? They are providing this kind of FDs as well. I believe if you look at an enterprise standpoint, right, most of these enterprises would also want a neutral platform. Okay, that's very important. They should not, they don't want a lock-in. They want vendor independence. They need lower costs. They need flexibility. They need some kind of a sovereignty and ability to switch, right? Models and tools and so forth. That's what a CIO of an enterprise would look at. So I believe there could probably be, and classic piece is, Tushar highlighted, Palantir is probably a company, right, which has done it for AI and now, of course, doing it for GenAI. There are companies in West, some company called Distill that I had been following. They do a similar model where they are taking models from everywhere. They have a platform and providing the agentic AI, aspects of creating those agents and then forward deployment engineers. So making it, hand-holding the enterprises to, I think that is a fundamentally platform services plus FD is probably one area India should build and excel in, given our IT heritage.
Certainly. Let's also talk about who really owns the enterprise relationship now, right? The traditional boundaries in enterprise technology were clean, right? Cloud providers own the infrastructure, model companies own the intelligence, IT services firms own deployment. Now, I believe those lines by themselves have completely blurred. OpenAI has a deployment company, Anthropic has AI native services, AWS has forward deployed engineers, Microsoft has, of course, Frontier Company. These are model and infrastructure companies that are moving directly into, I believe, the implementation layer, the territory that, Indian IT has owned for, I believe, 30 odd years. So my question is to you here, from your perspective, why are OpenAI or say Anthropic, AWS and Microsoft all moving downstream into services? From an investor and deep tech ecosystem perspective, what are they seeing in enterprise AI adoption, that has made them decide that they need to own this layer themselves?
So frankly speaking, they are playing multiple pieces, right? So if you look during the India AI mission, Anthropic and OpenAI also did partnerships with TCS and Infosys as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of the day, to demonstrate value, right? So these guys have taken up a humongous infrastructure. These guys have invested billions and hundreds of billions. They're going public. So at the end of the day, all of these guys need to showcase ROI and revenue very quickly and sustain revenue. So that's the easiest path for them, right? You got the models, you got many of the harnesses built. Can you now, the companies and the enterprises are struggling today. Can you deploy a bunch of people on the ground to help them, right? Maximize the ROI. That's the easy bet. But eventually, as things settle down, as I was highlighting, the enterprises will want a neutral party. Right? And that's for their own, essentially, if you look at the history, these guys, enterprises, how do they play? They want not a dependence on a single supplier. Bottom line. They want multiple suppliers. They want to reduce risk, vendor risks, and so forth. So these things will play in. And that's the reason I believe Indian companies and new age startups with a combination of a platform plus FDEs, right? The good thorough knowledge about multiple models, multiple layers, those kind of companies are going to be extremely successful.
Certainly.
And just
please.
So just extending on the lines of thought which Soma sir has presented, in fact, when the call center business started exploding in India, Bangladesh, and most parts of the Southeast Asian world, it was 90s. There were a lot of incentives to grab. And that's why a lot of these headcount businesses started coming up. I believe that if I just put a very interesting proposition on the table, you will see a very similar explosion, but with FDs at the centerpiece. So it is still going to be a headcount business, but on the implementation side, because incentives are really, really good. Intelligence is there, models are there. Now somebody has to take it out and drive some ROI. And there would be an explosion of these kind of business. You'll see the agencies, the consulting shops getting into these businesses. Maybe you would see another Infosys coming up with FD as the centerpiece. So interesting times ahead.
Absolutely, Tushar. I, in fact, completely agree with you
there
on
has
that.
to probably be, right, a bit of an additional layer, I believe, as well.
Yes.
So beyond the models, you probably have an agentic AI framework, some guardrail. See, today, if you want to go into an enterprise, what you have to do is search all over the enterprise, get their data and everything in. Make sure you understand what kind of data. There has to be kind of a ready framework for an easy deployment. If you are just kind of an IT house or a consultant, right, it becomes very difficult to actually deploy things out there. But if you have kind of a platform-based approach, right, where you can quickly build up vertical agents for multiple industries and so forth. And at each one of these layers, you have the search stack, you have the basic LLM stack, and these are so easy to build these days with open source, right? If you have these things ready, those are the guys who would be able to deploy things faster. Otherwise, it's the same stuff. You wear your marketing hat or consultant hat, go out there and start, building for each enterprises separately.
Absolutely. That's quite a significant insight coming from someone watching the capital sort of flow across this ecosystem. Neeraj, my next question is to you here. Would you say that AI companies are, effectively becoming the new consulting firms? Because if, Microsoft has 6,000 engineers sitting inside enterprises helping them deploy AI, that is not an infrastructure company anymore, right? Where does that leave a company like RevRag that is building in the same deployment layer?
Yeah, so like when we started the business, so definitely we were, having this, thought process that like, okay, where we are going, is it more towards the consultative or the service based, or basically, where is it going to be the product driven altogether or the platform driven altogether, right? So deliberately, we wanted to be on the platform side, right? A platform which we can give to any company, and they should be able to serve it end to end, right? They should be able to handle it end to end, right? But I think that like my understanding today is that like if we have to go into the scalability, right? So definitely we have to give the the platform, right, with the FDEs, right, where they can assist, right? And so once you give the platform, and the beauty of serving a vertical is that like you can have all those learnings in those platform, as we are not serving the horizontal today, right? So all those learnings are going onto the platform, and the most important thing via that platform is the time to value, right? So definitely I can have the FD's team, right, and they can develop the solution or launch their agents, right, within 2 to 3 months, right, end to end, right? But what if I bring a platform which can start delivering the value right after a week, right? So that is what we have been able to do it, right? So 6 months back, like we were able to build those agents, right, and taking like 2 months of time, right, end to end, right? But today we are in a situation where we can roll these agents within a week, right? And that is because we have gone through an scalable way, put in all those learnings on the platform. So yeah, I think at least for the startups like us, right, the approach has been to get all the learnings on the platform, and eventually every enterprise, right, they want the time to value to be really fast, right? It's not like 3-4 months, they would be fine, right? But the sense like there are a lot of competitors, right? And you also want to grab a lot of use cases as well, right, within those enterprises, right? And they also want to understand that like, hey, you got success with one use case, but is this something which I can repeat with their other use cases as well, right? So yeah,
have you guys built up essentially an agentic AI framework?
Yes.
Line flow based.
Yes.
Right. So that makes it easier for you to deploy things. Yes.
Correct. Because we knew, right, we wanted to scale, and so for the scalability, and second is like how fast we can give the value to the customer.
Yeah. And it's so easy these days, right?
Yes.
So much of an open source availability. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Tushar, who ultimately owns the customer relationship? Because Vani sells to enterprises, SBI Life, Work India, Everest Fleet. You own that relationship today, right? But as OpenAI or Anthropic and Microsoft build direct enterprise deployment teams, do you see them as future competitors for the same enterprise relationships that you are building? And is that deployment becoming the new moat?
Absolutely, there would be some overlap because they would want to grab the similar pie that we also want. But it also depends on what kind of niches that you're targeting, what is the ICP, what kind of target segment that you're going after, if you're vertical, horizontal, all of those nitty-gritties would come into the picture. So unless we get to the stage where we have multiple resources at hand, we would want to create our own niche, our own positioning in the market. And that's what most of the successful startups end up doing.
Understood. Thank you for answering that so candidly, Tushar. I would again like to pivot here a little bit. For decades, right, implementation, integration, and enterprise transformation, they were like the core strength of Indian IT services, right? TCS, be it Infosys, Wipro, HCL Tech, Cognizant. These companies built their scale on the ability to take technology and make it work inside large enterprises. And that is precisely what forward deployed engineers do. And now the companies building the AI are also building the FDE teams to deploy it. So my question is to you here. Would you say that OpenAI and Anthropic are entering Indian territory? And from your vantage point as someone with experience across, both India and Silicon Valley, would you say that Indian IT has a structural advantage in enterprise relationships that can protect it? Or is there something the AI native deployment teams have that relationships and scale cannot overcome?
No, I think, there is definitely an advantage. It's the customer relationship that IT companies have. Number two is they are pretty comfortable knowing what exactly are the types and systems which they have built for these enterprises, right? So these are the two aspects they have. They don't have even probably some of them are trying to build up a basic platform, an agentic AI kind of a platform for faster deployment. They probably don't have the other layers and so forth as well. And again, they are currently training their workforce on agentic AI, right? So they probably have to get on a war footing, either kind of acquire new age AI services or AIFD startups, right? To quickly get out and start deploying with their customers. Otherwise, they are in trouble, right? In that sense.
Certainly.
Exactly. In fact, a very short example would be the release of Fable 5. Fable 5 got released on, I think, last month, 6th of June, and got then taken down by the ministry. That is when we realized that, until we own the foundation layer, there are certain things that you're going to lose on. And despite the likes of, say, Infosys, Accenture, and maybe Wipros of the world, raking billions in revenues from last 30 years, they could have invested a lot of that amount into innovations, which would have given them the ownership across the layer, across the stack, where there were models, there were implementation pieces, there were services, there were engineering pieces, but they only stayed at the application layer or maybe the implementation layer. That is, I think, coming back and biting them now. So unless until they move pretty fast, somebody else is going to get their pie. That's what I feel.
Or they could possibly, it's very difficult and it's extremely resource and time, intensive to get into an LLM layer at this stage. But I believe if they can get into at least at the middleware layer, right? And then they can stitch together, orchestrate the SLMs and build up the agents pretty quickly. I think that's what the enterprises need as well. And yes, code generation and so forth, Fable has, of course, taken over.
Yeah, but in fact, the larger companies like Infosys start complaining about resources, then where would the startups like us would go, right? So they would have to take some risky bets.
Certainly. Neeraj, would you say that, Infosys, TCS, Wipro, HCL Tech, Cognizant, could it compete with AI native deployment teams that were, sort of built from the ground up to deploy the very models that they own now? Or does Indian IT's proximity to enterprise clients still give it an advantage that, no amount of FD hiring from OpenAI can replicate? Your take on that?
Yes, so I think 2-3 aspects here, right? So one is, first of all, DNA matters, right? So let's say a company which is 40 years old versus a startup which is 2 years old, right? So let's say we don't have resources, we don't have money, right? What we have, what they might not have is, let's say, the focus, right? The intensity of the focus we have, right? So that is one aspect, or the framework which I think on, right? Second thing is wherever we have started deploying, right? And we have tried to understand that, hey, fast forward after 2 years, right? Let's say, and I think Som sir or Tushar, you were saying, right, that enterprise also have these fallbacks, or for one services, they will have the multiple vendors, right? And that we have seen across, right? So I keep discussing this with my team as well, right? That, okay, after 2 years, everything will converge, the product quality, maybe the price, right? So what will happen at that point, right? So what I think will happen is, right, we will try to solve for the reliability or trust, I would say, right? So for example, one enterprise is there, right? And they are giving service to, let's say, or basically they are in collaboration with 4 vendors or 4 parties, right? Now they have to have this mental model that okay, when this thing will go south, this system will go south, right? So which vendor is the most reliable one, right? When we scale to 10x or 100x, right? Which one have the most capability, right? So I think that is where we are optimizing currently, right? Because with the coming of the Claudes and everything, right? I think eventually price and the quality should converge, right? What might not converge is the people, right? Like us, right? We sitting, right? So eventually translating it to trust and reliability.
Certainly. Thank you again for that very, very candid answer,
Very well.
Neeraj. Tushar, you are building voice AI infrastructure that enterprises deploy, right? You are competing, in fact, in the same space. Would you say that AI deployment is, the next services battleground, and who actually wins it? Is it the company that, built the model? Is it the company that owns the cloud? Is it the Indian IT firm with, 30 years of enterprise relationship? Or, is it the AI native startup that was purpose built for this very problem?
I think it is the piece that would get by somebody who owns most of the pieces when it comes to control of the quality as well as increasing margins, because the business can't sustain for maybe 10 years if you exhaust your credits and you have nothing to do after that, right? So you should have some margins which will increase over time. And the only way to do that is owning a lot of pieces of that puzzle. And that is why the thesis that we follow is building a full stack company, very similar to 11 Labs. 11 Labs started as a model or a TTS model company, then went on launching an agentic platform, and then went on doing FD services for enterprises as well. That way, they own, if something goes bad, they know where to do RCA in that model chain or the infrastructure. If they want to diminish their cost over the period of time, they own the models. They maybe can negotiate a lot of prices with these GPU vendors. They can take down their costs, right? So mostly, if you can control your margins, if you can control your performance, if you can control most of these pieces, you would end up winning that particular game. And that is how maybe we actually go about building this particular business. And I think Dave Curry from Lightspeed VC puts it very well. We are seeing a transition from SaaS, which was software as a service, transitioning into service as a software now. So just S and S have exchanged the places. So services are getting packaged as maybe something that I can offer to the next enterprise, and they're buying that maybe on the headcount business or on subscription businesses. So yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Interesting. I also, again, pivoting here a little bit, I want to talk about Sarvam's FD move here. Sarvam AI it's not just building India's sovereign large language model. It is also now hiring forward deployed engineers, positioning itself not just, as a model company, but also as a deployment company for the Indian enterprises. Now, a company which is competing in a market where, global giants are spending millions and billions has decided that model building alone is not enough, right? And this is happening right here. So why do you think is Sarvam investing in forward deployed engineering alongside building a frontier model? And as an investor, in India's deep tech ecosystem, what does that combination really tell you about, what it actually takes to win in the Indian enterprise AI market? So.
See, many of these Sarvam related aspects would probably be as well in the government, as well as banking industry and so forth, where very specific Indian models are required. Okay. And given kind of the lack of talent base in many of these Indian organizations to actually take the Sarvam model as is and write very specific calls, agents, and so forth, right? See, to a certain extent, if the ecosystem was kind of a bit matured, if it was not changing things kind of overnight, right? It's hard to keep up with AI, frankly speaking. Right? So that then we would have expected the Indian IT houses and so forth taking on a lot of this load. But given that it's changing so fast, the model companies are, as I had indicated, model companies are basically saying, gosh, I'm sitting with a huge asset. I have spent humongous amount of money. I have, taken a lot of investment. I really need to grow my revenue. Right? Essentially, that's the case. Sarvam also took a $250 or $300 million, right, of investment. So many of these model companies are saying, hey, I know I have to deploy in the enterprises. Consumer ain't going to cut it, right? I can give it to the AI startups, my Sarvam model, and they can integrate, but it's going to take a long time. Why don't I deploy a workforce who understands my model, who understands what kind of problem and so forth they are trying to solve, as well as they are good conversant with that entire agentic AI framework. And I put that into the enterprise and see if I can accelerate my revenue.
Would you say so, would you say that Indian AI companies could compete through deployment rather than scale?
Sorry, I couldn't understand the question in terms of what kind of, are you talking about AI startups?
Yes, just in terms of, deployment, not just in terms of the number of it, but just deployment itself.
Yeah. So to a certain extent, that is also our thesis, right? What will make the AI companies in India successful as compared to the West? So if you look at in US, Europe, especially in US, these guys have taken humongous amount of capital. They have no dearth of GPU resources. They don't have any dearth of capital. Unfortunately, in India, we are stuck up with a couple of, I'm not talking about the model companies, but the AI companies, right? AI application companies. We are stuck with a very small amount of money, always challenged in terms of GPU resources and so forth. But how can this be a boon compared to a bane, right? One piece for sure, we are trying to optimize the hell out in terms of GPU resources or the time it takes for these models. As China has done, a super distillation and so forth, model optimization, compute optimization is what every one of the startups is doing. I'm sure Neeraj and Tushar will agree. Right?
Yeah.
Which means, as I think you gave the example of 11 labs, and I'm pretty sure companies like Smallest.ai, Tushar's company and so forth are going to be able to do from a cost competitive standpoint. You guys are probably at a 5 to 10x better compared to what 11 labs is going to charge. Right? This is point number one. Point number two is, we will probably be able to orchestrate things a bit better in terms of actual deployment within the enterprise, right? The third piece is, yes, we can throw in a bunch of FDEs, right, who have knowledge about what kind of enterprise deployment needs to happen because of our IT background. So these are probably the three areas where we need to fight to win as compared to the GPU and capital resources.
All right.
I'm sure Neeraj, Tushar would love to get your thoughts.
Absolutely. And I think you put it really well. Innovation is a mother of necessity, despite like having very lesser resources when you compare ourselves to the Western counterparts like 11 Labs. I think a very similar wave of innovation is happening. In fact, to train any model in any sort of Indian language, there is a dearth of data. In fact, if data is not available, how can you train a model which competes with, say, the same quality which 11 Labs has achieved over English as a language, right? The emotiveness, the expressions of it. That is where you have to go back to your table, think from the first principles and come up with the different architecture in the first place. Most of the LLM backbone architectures are really good when the data is available at scale, which is really good for English. But when it comes to AI, that can be really, really democratized for Indian people. That is not the possibility because data does not exist at that scale. If something does not exist at that scale, but your architecture demands that much data to find maybe semantic relationships, that is not going to go get you anywhere, right? So we have to come up with the kind of new innovations or architectures which works on lesser and lesser data without compromising on the performance. Now, that is a very new direction that we are talking about. So I believe that most of the innovation on the model level, it's still pending. And we'll see most of those fruits in coming years. Of course, there will be the engineering side, there will be the implementation side. But when it comes to the actual democratization, there is still a lot of things that we can do as a resource-scarce country. And yeah, maybe some part of it will come from money as well.
Neeraj, my question is to you now. RevRag, I believe, is deeply rooted in the Indian BFSI ecosystem. Does owning the deployment layer in India, the relationships, the compliance knowledge, the understanding of how Indian enterprises actually work, does it matter as much as owning the model itself? And can an Indian AI company build a moat through deployment that a global frontier lab, cannot easily break?
Yeah, it's a great question, I would say, right? And first, like I mentioned earlier as well, right? So owning a vertical and going very deep in that vertical, right, actually gives you the opportunity to bring very deep solutions. And when I say deep solutions, so that doesn't mean technically deep. It means that like the capability to bring much more ROI than any horizontal product can bring, right, for that use case, right? So that is one. So I think eventually the direction of the moat, what we think is again from the ROI perspective, right? So let's say there are n number of players in the market, right? And we are going deeper and deeper in the BFSI, right, in the use cases. So theoretically, because we are in that direction, we haven't established it yet, right, in a very soundproof way, right? So theoretically, we should have the capability to prove the maximum ROI with respect to our competitors, right? Because we will have the maximum data or basically maximum behavior we would have written at by that time, right? So obviously those learnings basically go into the platform and those basically compound over the time as well, right? So that is what we see from the mode perspective. And also what I believe is, right, that like enterprises like are the marathons in terms of, going into the production, right? If you compare with the SMBs, right? So they are typically sprints. So for example, with the SMBs in the fintechs, I can work with 1 or 2 months, right? I can convince them that like, here is the value and we can go into the production, right? There are at least 10 plus enterprises, more than 6 months I have been with them, right? It was just 2 months or 3 months when we showed the value one way or the other. But yes, they need more time, right? More use cases, like 8 verticals, 8 departments, right? Okay, we showed the value with 1 department, 2 department. No, we want to see it with the more, right? So that's fine, right? So like it is more or less production for us, right?
Yeah.
But I think that like, and second thing is like, we have also started sending the FDs there, right? On the regular basis. And it is not that like we want every time to send the FDs. Like I was mentioning the reliability, right? So for example, there is an enterprise, right, which is one of the biggest in India, right? We are sending our FDs, right? 2 to 3 are FDs and they're sitting there, right? And when I keep chatting with them, right? What is that you can't work out from the office and you go. So eventually the answer is that like the reliability. They want someone that like when the issues come, right? So they do not want the, let's say the digital layer, right? They can just simply jump to your table and basically have the quick solutioning discussion. Hey, this went wrong. This is something, right? By when we can have the solution, right? So that easiness, right, for the enterprises beats anything. So yeah.
Absolutely, Neeraj. Thank you for that. And gentlemen, in the interest of time, I would like to conclude this. But before I let you go, one final question.
Sorry, I think Som was saying something.
Yes, I'm so
I was
sorry,
just
Som.
wanting to bring up a one point, right?
Yeah.
See, in many of these other parts of the world, the concept is DIY. You give them a platform, they do it themselves, right? In India, unfortunately, in Indian enterprises especially, the concept is do it for me. Yeah, so basically they expect, even if it's a software company, they expect engineers to kind of go and deploy this. They are a call away in terms of any issues, problems. So that probably might work to our benefit now, right? Especially in the early days of AI.
Yes.
Absolutely, Som. I have one final question, and it's the same question for all the three of you. If you could quickly wrap that up and give me a very concise and precise answer. 5 years from now, when we look back at the artificial intelligence race, will the winners be the companies, that build the smartest models, or would it be the companies that got artificial intelligence deployed inside millions of these businesses?
I believe that is going to be distribution. If somebody owns the distribution layer, they're going to win because they hold the door. They will choose what kind of models they are getting deployed into through those doors, what kind of tech, what kind of FDs. So I guess distribution is the key to win here.
Certainly. Neeraj?
Yeah, another lens would be on the same lines. It's not about the car, it's about the driver. So yeah.
That's a great analogy there. So anything that you want to add, just to wrap it up?
I'll take an opposite view though.
Okay, absolutely. Please bring it on.
So if you look at the history, right? Database, right? Infrastructure aspects, the cloud guys. Okay. So the guys who have built up something really differentiated, they extract the most amount of value. In the early stages, deployment is essential. That's why we are hearing the noise. But as things kind of stabilize, as things kind of mature, many of the forward deployment engineering teams, or just call it pure play AI services, right? They will also learn. At this stage, maybe next 2-3 years, when things are changing so fast, things have to be, that's where very much a need for these deployment engineers. But eventually, once the curve of technology kind of plateaus, at least to a certain degree, people come up to speed, there will probably be a lot of these deployment engineers. There will be a lot of these AI services companies out there, right? Which has happened in the IT services world. So maybe it will kind of replicate that way.
Certainly so. Neeraj, Tushar and Som, thank you so much. It's been a fascinating conversation. And, for whoever is tuned in right now, I would like to leave our viewers with this. The $10 billion that frontier AI companies are committing to deployment is not a marketing exercise. It, in fact, is a signal. The people who built the models have looked at where the value actually gets captured. And they have concluded that it's not in the model. It is in what happens after the model, right? It is in the integration, it's in the workflow, it's in the outcome. Now, the companies and the countries that figure that out first will, of course, not just win the deployment race, they might just end up owning the entire AI era. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. The conversation has been riveting. It's been educational. It's been fascinating. So, thank you so much for coming on Point Break. And viewers, whoever is tuned in right now, I am Antara. This is Point Break. I'll see you again next episode.